Good morning to everybody. My name is Akram Chowdhury. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm representing here Institute of Strategic Recovery Studies for Disaster Resilience and Research, just a newly formed organization. Immediately after the 6th ministerial meeting in Bangkok, where we attended the session, IRP session on the investing on recovery. That actually promoted us to develop this organization. Just, okay. Who's to handle? This is the map of Bangladesh. Especially, this is a very vulnerable to natural hazard, as you know it. You know about the cyclone Sidor in 2015. So, in Bangladesh, we have some advancements with regard to law. But then, the law is all about disaster risk reduction, not about so much on recovery, reconstruction. This has been only Disaster Management Act 2012. It's a fine law, but then still we have a need to write our policy and also rules. So therefore, there is an opportunity to provide something on the recovery reconstruction in the rules. So necessary amendment is needed if we really want to amend recovery. Then in the Disaster Management Act, there's a lot of committees, governmental committees, but then and also there's a provision for Disaster Management Fund, District Disaster Management Fund, but there is no provision for Recovery Fund, which also can be inserted if amendment done. We have National Plan for Disaster Management 2010 to 2015. Sorry. These are nice documents, but then there are several goals also. You can see several goals, and but there's no goal for recovery and reconstruction, which also can be done in the new National Plan for Disaster Management 2015 to 2021. In the National Disaster Fund, there is also in the National Disaster Fund, there is also a provision for National Disaster Response and Recovery Fund, and also National Risk Reduction Fund. So we can also. We have, the next one is Standing Order on Disaster. In absence of the law, we had our Standing Orders on Disaster in 2014, where we have different ministerial committee, but there's no committee for to cover the disaster recovery. So in the SOD, we can also amend it and insert it a Recovery Reconstruction Committee. In fact, with regard to recovery and reconstruction concept, it's really very new in Bangladesh. We actually came across this concept only on 6th ministerial program in Bangkok, 22-26 June 2014, where IRP side event as 6th AAGP, Investing in Recovery for Resilience. They presented this paper with Sabir Chowdhury in the chair, Sabir Chowdhury from Bangladesh in the chair, and where it asserted that investing in recovery can be opportunity to build better and safer, and hence should be adequately integrated in HFA2. So after that, we develop our Institute of Strategic Recovery Studies and for disaster resilience, and we actually, try to promote this idea with the government, and try to convince government and that we should do work on that. In the meanwhile, there's another event. In the meanwhile, we had another world meeting we attended, World Reconstruction Conference 2 in Washington, D.C., September 10-12, where actually they asserted the institutionalization of recovery as a means to risk reduction and sustainable development, and better define and measure outcomes such as resilience, recovery, and build back better. So these are the meeting. Unfortunately, our government could not attend this. Therefore, what we did, we actually, after coming back from Washington, D.C., I, along with Sabir Chowdhury, MP, and also UNDP's representative, we drafted a national action plan, which we actually submitted to the Secretary of the Ministry of Disaster and Relief. And this national plan of action, we mentioned about that national recovery platform comprising of relevant government of Bangladesh ministries and non-government actors. There should be a national recovery platform, localize PDNA tools and conduct PDNA training for relevant stakeholders. Then we could easily integrate the principle of resilient recovery in the national disaster management policy, currently in the draft stage, standing orders on disaster, national plan for disaster management, and the 7th five-year plan of Bangladesh, and sectoral plan, budgeting, and fiscal framework. So therefore, the government was so convinced, especially the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, as well as the Director General, and also the Standing Committee, Parliamentary Standing Committee on Disaster Management Ministry. We had a stakeholder consultation workshop on disaster recovery planning with the help of IRP. And two experts from IRP, Jerry and Kochi, went there to help us organize this very innovative and also very, for the first time in Bangladesh. This meeting was very successful, and there was a kind of series of recommendations. We organized, and the recommendation was, after this meeting, we recommended that organization of a 3-day workshop on disaster recovery planning to be participated by interministerial representatives and key stakeholders, and half-day orientation on recovery among parliamentarians. Third recommendation was activation of the Interministerial Council, Interministerial Disaster Management Coordination Committee, National Disaster Management Committee, Earthquake Preparedness and Awareness Committee, which are stipulated in the SOD to take on recovery function. Propose amendments to the Disaster Management Act 2012, or proposed for a separate National Recovery Act to secure recovery financing, and advocate for clear articulation of the recovery component in the process of updating the National Plan for Disaster Management. So these are the development of recovery. But in the meantime, Mr. Chair, I would like to also brief you about the, in Bangladesh, we had a exercise on PDNA, and also we have publication on training guide, which was done by World Bank with other different, international organizations. And this was the first attempt, one of the first attempts by World Bank to organize PDNA in Bangladesh. There was a loss and damage assessment, and which was actually submitted to the government. But then we don't know actually what happened after that recommendation goes to the authority. That needs to be followed up. Now, there's the understanding that there should be a paradigm shift from DRR to recovery and reconstruction, build back better, and we should convince that the government should take a number of steps. Step one should be national recovery platform be organized in Bangladesh. There is a problem that there's a misunderstanding that the disaster events should be guided and directed by the disasters ministry only. But then, of course, there are other ministries who can be affected by disaster. They thought that it is the disaster ministry who will provide them all kinds of support or expertise. So we should have a national recovery platform consisting of the members, different officials from the different ministry that need to be done for effective recovery program in Bangladesh. Then second step is predictable fund. In the disaster, as I mentioned earlier, in the Disaster Management Act 2012, there is the provision of funding, but there is only emergency funding. So the concept of predictable funding also new in Bangladesh. So therefore, there should be an exercise, what does it mean by predictable fund, and how we can raise that, either through Parliament or whether we need a actually separate act. So therefore, we said in step 3, there should be a new recovery act. And step 4 is recovery and reconstruction authority. Because at the moment, the Bangladesh disaster management is run by the Department of Disaster Management, which is actually mostly looking into DRR matter, disaster recovery, disaster risk reduction, but not that much of recovery. So therefore, there could be a recovery authority headed by the Minister for Disaster Management. So, Chair, I will be finishing by way forward by quoting two quotations. One is from the Director, Disaster Preparedness, Public Relations and International Cooperation Division, Cabinet Office, Government of Japan. He said, Mr. Kouru Saitu, the recovery component in HFA2 should also adequately quantitative, clear-cut, easy to understand targets. Recovery should be more structured, action-oriented, and with clear indicators to monitor progress. I also have the opportunity, taking the opportunity to quote you another quotation by our Sabit Chowdhury, who is also a ISRSDRR champion for disaster. Recovery needs further advocacy at the policy and legislative level to outline clear roles of government departments, and units in implementing recovery functions. And with these few words, let me thank you, and also I must express my gratitude and for your inviting me to this August gathering. I'm here to learn actually from you so that we can help our government to develop a real effective recovery and reconstruction authority and program in Bangladesh. And your assistance, and especially the IRP's assistance, is very important, and government of Japan's assistance is very important to help us develop our recovery reconstruction activities in Bangladesh. Thank you, Mr. Governor, and also the participant, my fellow panelists, and also chair. Thank you very much.